Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to YaHaWaH, Bahashem, YaHaWaH, Bahashem, Rakakodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, because those are the men who I learned this truth from through the spirit and power of YaHaWaH, Bahashem, YaHaWaH. YaHaWaH is the true name of the God of Israel. YaHaWaH is who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one and only true name is YaHaWaH. And pretty much I'm about to wrap up, my lessons on spiritual power by different men of the Lord, such as YaHaWaH himself, first and foremost, the 12 disciples, which I ain't even get there yet. Maybe I might say that for the future. But I'm Elijah, Elisha, Samson, King David, and now this lesson is going to be about Moses' spiritual power. All right? And we're going to pretty much learn, as I learned from the apostles and the men under them of Great Millstone, these particular plagues that plagued Egypt, the 10 plagues, it was there to mock their gods, which are no gods. Because the heathens, they worship wood and stone, the figment of somebody's imagination. All right, they worship the creation instead of the creator himself. Us as the Israelites, we have the privilege of worshiping the true and living God, which is one and only true name is YaHaWaH, and the Messiah that sits on his right hand, his only begotten Son, our heavenly high priest, our savior, our mediator, YaHaWaH. We have the privilege of worshiping them both as the chosen seed on the planet Earth, which is the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Our seed makes up the 12 tribes of Israel. All right? So this lesson is going to be about Moses. So this is what I typed in on Google. It says, or what I typed in, Moses supernatural power Bible verses. Right? So we're going to get into that. I'm going to read that. I just want to make sure everything is hooked up. So it says in the Bible, which Moses was a so-called Negro man, so-called black man, all right? When you hear people say so-called black man, it's never referring to the indigenous Africans that are Hamites, all right? In the Bible, Moses' supernatural powers did not come from within himself, but were granted by YaHaWaH as signs to demonstrate his ultimate authority, because the Most High, he uses vessels for his will. The verses detailing these miraculous events are primarily found in the book of Exodus, which we're going to read a lot of it. It says key verses detailing these supernatural events include the staff turning into a snake and leprosy. It says YaHaWaH gave Moses these initial signs so the Israelites would believe he was sent by YaHaWaH. All right, and then they give you the verses. So let's kick it off with Exodus, because I had Exodus 7. Exodus, the 4th chapter. I'm going to start at verse 1, but I'm going to read it in the NLT version. All right, I like the NLT. This is Exodus 4:1, and what does that say? Signs of YaHaWaH's power. Whenever you see the word Lord in caps, it's Strong's H3068, which is the true name of the God of Israel, which his name is YaHaWaH. Ain't no other name. All right? Exodus 4:1 on down. But Moses protested again. What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say YaHaWaH never appeared to you? This is Moses speaking unto the God of Israel, YaHaWaH. Verse 2 on down. Then YaHaWaH asked him, what is that in your hand? A shepherd's staff, Moses replied. Throw it down on the ground, YaHaWaH told him. So Moses threw down the staff and it turned into a snake. Moses jumped back. Then the Lord told him, reach out and grab its tail. So Moses reached out and grabbed it, and it turned back into a shepherd's staff. Perform this sign, YaHaWaH told him. Then they will believe that YaHaWaH, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, really has appeared to you. Then YaHaWaH said to Moses, now put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out again, his hand was white as snow with a severe skin disease, which is a leprosy, or what they call vitiligo. So the fact that he put his hand, in his cloak, what did that let you know? That he had to be a so-called Negro or a so-called black man, a man of color. Not no fucking Arab, all right? Not no East Indian, not anybody else but a so-called Negro man, all right? So let's pause there real quick. And I want to see what this says. It don't really say nothing, all right? And then it goes into some more, Exodus 7. Let's go down here. It says, now put your hand back into your cloak, YaHaWaH said. So Moses put his hand back in, and when he took it out again, it was as healthy as the rest of his body. YaHaWaH said to Moses, if they do not believe you and are not convinced by the first miraculous sign, they will be convinced by the second sign. And if they don't believe you or listen to you, even after these two signs, then take some water from the Nile River and pour it out on dry ground. When you do, the water from the Nile will turn to blood on the ground. But Moses pleaded with YaHaWaH, O Lord, I'm not very good with words. I never have been, and I'm not now. Even though you have spoken to me, I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled. Then YaHaWaH asked Moses, who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether people speak or do not speak, hear or do not hear, see or do not see? Is it not I, YaHaWaH? It's YaHaWaH speaking to Moses. Now go, I will be with you as you speak, and I will instruct you what to say. But Moses again pleaded, Lord, please send anyone else. Then YaHaWaH became angry with Moses because he being stubborn, all right? He being sincerely wrong right now. You're supposed to just do it. It says, all right, he said, what about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know he speaks well, and look, he is on his way to meet you now. He will be delighted to see you. Talk to him and put the words in his mouth. I will be with both of you as you speak, and I will instruct you both in what to do. Aaron will be your spokesman to the people. He will be your mouthpiece, and you will stand in place of the Most High for him, telling him what to say. And this is like the example of how camps is modeled, all right? You'll have the main speaker, and then you'll have the reader that's feeding the speaker with precepts based off of the topic. And when brothers are speaking, stay on topic when you bring out your precept. Unless an elder tell you to switch the topic up, because sometimes brothers talk too much about women, which ain't nothing wrong with that. It's a part of prophecy, but sometimes we like to switch it up after like an hour or two, right? So that's it with that. That's the first miraculous sign. Now let's get Exodus 7. Let's jump back to the AI. Now it's going into what? The plagues of Egypt. Moses often, through his brother, stretched out his staff to unleash divine plagues on Egypt, including turning the Nile into blood. And we're going to read these accounts. All right? You got some more. Well, that's the next one, the parting of the Red Sea. So let's deal with that. Which, by the way, before I get into these the scriptures at Exodus 7 about these 10 plagues, let's just read this real quick. So I typed in Moses 10 plagues of Egypt. Well, I spelled it wrong, but I meant to put used to mock their gods, AI, because I was preparing the lesson, right? The 10 plagues of Egypt, as recorded in the book of Exodus, were a series of devastating divine judgments sent to force Pharaoh to free the Israelite slaves. Scholars and theologians often note that these plagues were not random disasters. Rather, They were a direct confrontation with and a public humiliation of the Egyptian pantheon, demonstrating that the God of Israel was supreme over all creation, even their gods, right? Here is how each of the 10 plagues specifically targeted and mocked the major gods of Egypt. And that's what we're about to read in Exodus 7. The first one, the Nile to blood, targeted Happy, god of the Nile. It says, and Khnum, guardian of the Nile. The lifeblood of Egypt was turned to blood, turning their source of life and revered deities into a source of death. Number 2, the frogs. It targeted this particular Egyptian god, Heket, goddess of fertility and childbirth, represented as a frog. Frogs were considered scarce, but YaHaWaH made them a noisome plague that overran the Egyptians. Number 3, gnats/lice, targeted Geb, the earth god. Aaron struck the dust of the earth, and it became lice, humiliating the gods of the soil. You see what the Most High is doing through Moses and Aaron? He's mocking their Egyptian gods. Number 4, because the true and living God is YaHaWaH, as well as his only begotten son. Number 2, which is YaHaWaH. It says flies. It targeted Khepri, god of creation, often depicted with a beetle, or gods associated with insects. The swarms highlighted the importance of these deities to protect the land. Number 5, livestock pestilence, which a pestilence, yeah, it's a plague, but it's a disease outbreak, right? Targeted Hathor, the cow goddess, and Apis, the scarce bull. These revered animals died, stripping Egypt of its religious icons and economic wealth. Number 6, boils. It targeted Sekhmet. I'm probably pronouncing that weird shit wrong, but that's the name of their weird ass god, right? Goddess of healing. It says Isis and Imhotep, which Imhotep, he actually was Joseph, all right? It says god of medicine. The priests and gods could not heal their own people and were even afflicted themselves. Number 7, hail, right? Targeted Nut, the sky goddess, Shu, atmosphere god, and Seth, the storm god. A devastating storm of ice and fire rained down, destroying the crops despite the gods who supposedly, keyword supposedly, controlled the weather. Number 8, the locust, targeted Seth, god of chaos, and Nippur, god of grain. The locust destroyed what was left of Egypt's agriculture and food supply. Number 9, darkness, targeted Ra, the sun god, Horus, and Amen-Ra. Egypt was plunged into total darkness for 3 days, mocking their most powerful supreme sun deities. The last one, number 10, death of the firstborn, targeted Pharaoh himself, who was considered a living god, and gods of life like Isis and Osiris. This ultimate judgment proved YaHaWaH, God of Israel, holds the power of life and death, not their made up, gods. All right. So now let's go here. So let's deal with that. All right. So make sure I'm on point with this. We're going to start at verse 1, NLT version. This is Exodus 7 and verse 1. And the headline reads, meaning the subject of the next particular verses, Aaron's staff becomes a serpent, NLT version. Then YaHaWaH said to Moses, pay close attention to this. I will make you seem like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. Tell Aaron everything I command you, and Aaron must command Pharaoh to let the people of Israel leave his country. But I will make Pharaoh's heart stubborn. You see how the Lord is controlling duality? He's controlling the mind of all creation, but he's controlling the Egyptians, their actions, their reactions, how they're going to react to these plagues that's happening to them, which is proving that their gods is no gods and don't exist, that none of their gods are living. This is the type of God we serve, man. Predestination. Everything happens according to the will and power of the Most High. Nobody has free will. No creation that is created has free will, period. Nothing does what it wants to do. So it says, but I will make Pharaoh's heart stubborn so I can multiply my miraculous signs. So all these things that Moses and Aaron was doing, but we focusing on Moses, it's YaHaWaH's miraculous signs that he's doing through Moses. He said, I'm going to make, in their eyes, make them seem like you are God. All right? Remember, YaHaWaH get the credit. It says, so I can multiply my miraculous signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. Even then, Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, because that's what YaHaWaH already told Moses. He said, I'm going to make his heart stubborn, right? Meaning he wasn't trying to let the people of Israel leave the country of Egypt. Even then, Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so I will bring down my fists upon Egypt. Then I will rescue my forces, my people, the Israelites, from the land of Egypt with great acts of judgment. When I raise my powerful hand and bring out the Israelites, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. They're going to know that he is YaHaWaH, the true and living God, right? It says, so Moses and Aaron did just as YaHaWaH had commanded them. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron was 83 when they made their demands to Pharaoh. Then YaHaWaH said to Moses and Aaron, Pharaoh will demand, show me a miracle. When he does this, say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down in front of Pharaoh. It will become a serpent. Now, I'm gonna read this, but I wanna AI this, all right? Because whatever points I missed, that AI is gonna pick up the slack. Continuing on. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did what YaHaWaH had commanded them. Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a serpent. It says, then Pharaoh called in his own wise men and sorcerers, and these Egyptian magicians did the same thing with their magic on the left-hand side. They threw down their staffs, which also became serpents. But then Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Why? Because it's all about YaHaWaH. All right? Continuing on. It says, Pharaoh's heart, however, remained hard. He still refused to listen, just as YaHaWaH had predicted. He didn't predict it. It's predestination. He already knows what's going to happen. Everything is happening according to his will. So now let's AI this, right? Exodus 7, 9 through 13. Let's get that. Exodus 7, give me a second. Exodus 7 verses 9 to 13 meaning. All right, so this is the AI overview. It says, details the initial confrontation between Moses, Aaron, and Pharaoh. When Aaron cast his staff down and it became a serpent, Pharaoh's magicians replicate this with their own occult arts, right? Left-hand magic. That stuff is real. Black magic and all that, but it's evil. It says, however, Aaron's staff swallows theirs, demonstrating YaHaWaH's absolute superiority over the false gods and magic of Egyptians. The verses hold several key theological meanings. It says YaHaWaH's sovereignty versus occult power, which all that comes from the Lord anyway. Proof of that is what? Isaiah 45:7. The Lord created good and evil. He played both sides, duality, right? The ability of Egyptian sorcerers to turn staffs into serpents reveals that supernatural feats aren't exclusively divine. However, Aaron's staff swallowing the others proves that the power of YaHaWaH infinitely outweighs and defeats demonic or pagan forces. A call to recognize YaHaWaH. This miracle was meant to validate Moses and Aaron's authority and force Pharaoh and the Egyptians to recognize YaHaWaH as the one true God. It says the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. Despite witnessing an undeniable display of power, Pharaoh remains arrogant. He refuses to listen to YaHaWaH's demand to free the Israelites, hardening his own heart, setting the stage for the upcoming 10 plagues that I read earlier, right? So that's it with that. There you go. Let me go back. I want to keep that open. All right, continuing on. All right, so now where we at? The plague of blood. A plague of blood, right? Which this plague of blood, what was the purpose of it? Now to blood, it targeted this particular Egyptian god that the Egyptians were worshiping, named Hapi, god of the Nile, as well as this god of the Nile that the Egyptians worship, Khnum, guardian of the Nile. The lifeblood of Egypt was turned to blood, turning their source of life and revered deities into a source of death. We're about to get into it. NLT, Exodus 7:14. It says, Then YaHaWaH said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is stubborn, and he still refuses to let the people go. So go to Pharaoh in the morning as he goes down to the river, stand on the bank of the Nile and meet him there. It says, be sure to take along the staff that turned into a snake. Then announce to him, YaHaWaH, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to tell you, let my people go so they can worship me in the wilderness. Until now, you have refused to listen to me. So this is what YaHaWaH says. I will show you that I am the Lord. Look, I will strike the water of the Nile with the staff in my hand, and the river will turn to blood. The fish in it will die, right? And the river will stink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink any water from the Nile. Because if their gods were real, their gods will be the guardian. It would be able to defend the Nile, right? That shit didn't happen though. Why? Because their gods is no gods, it's idols. NLT 19. Then YaHaWaH said to Moses, tell Aaron, take your staff and raise your hand over the waters of Egypt, all its rivers, canals, ponds, and all the reservoirs. Turn all the water to blood. Everywhere in Egypt, the water would turn to blood. Even the water stored in wooden bowls and stone pots. So Moses and Aaron did just as YaHaWaH commanded them. As Pharaoh and all of his officials watched, Aaron raised his staff and struck the water of the Nile. Suddenly, the whole river turned to blood. The fish in the river died, and the water became so foul that the Egyptians couldn't drink it. But wait a minute, if their gods were real, where are their gods at? That's the whole purpose of these plagues. There was blood everywhere throughout the land of Egypt. But again, the magicians of Egypt used their magic, and they too turned water into blood. So Pharaoh's heart remained hard. He refused to listen to Moses and Aaron, just as YaHaWaH had predicted. Yeah, because YaHaWaH was setting it up for them to drown in the northern part of the Red Sea. All right? Which would be what? The Gulf of Suez. Continuing on, Pharaoh returned to his palace and put the whole thing out of his mind. Then all the Egyptians dug along the river bank to find drinking water, for they couldn't drink the water from the Nile. 7 days passed from the time YaHaWaH struck the Nile. All right, because it ain't about Moses. You know, YaHaWaH, he using Moses to do these things, but it's YaHaWaH doing it. All right. So that was that. That was the whole Exodus 7. Now we're dealing with the parting of the Red Sea, which the Israelites, they crossed the northern part of the Red Sea. All right. Continuing on. Because you'll have scholars, they'll be like, oh, how is that possible? Because the density of salt that's in the Red Sea, there's no way they could have do that. But Luke 1:37, nothing is impossible with the Most High. And then they crossed the Gulf of Suez, the northern part of the Red Sea. Because you could literally look at on a map, which I should have had it on the screen, Salakia, where they crossed and where they ended up. That particular wilderness over there, I forget the name. But look at it on the map. The northern part of the Red Sea, the Gulf of Suez. Once they crossed that, once YaHaWaH used Moses to part the northern part of the Red Sea, the Gulf of Suez, they ended up in that particular wilderness over there, all right, which is close to the Promised Land. So now it says, part in the Red Sea. YaHaWaH used Moses to perform arguably the most famous miracle in the Old Testament, right? Which Elisha did it, Elijah did it. But we're focusing on this because this is like the first account pretty much. It says, dividing the sea to allow the Israelites to escape. Okay, so we're gonna get that. Exodus 14 and 21. I'm reading everything in the NLT. It's simplified, it's just better for particular verses. All right. So let me see where I should start. That's where they drown to death. I love it. Let me see. Okay, I gotta start up. I want to read everything, man. NLT version, Exodus 14 and 1. Gotta fall in love with these scriptures. You know, when you do lessons, it ain't just like one dimensional. Like, I'm just gonna focus on this. We gotta understand the book. We gotta understand the history. These heathens, they're gonna fear the name of YaHaWaH once again. They're gonna fear the name of YaHaWaH, all right, when he comes back. They're gonna fear YaHaWaH when he come back, all right? NLT, Exodus 14 and 1. Because we gotta be put back in remembrance. Our people think that YaHaWaH don't love them. You know, they think that YaHaWah's blood sacrifice and resurrection, you know, that was just in vain. Oh, look at what these so-called white people doing. They rape, rob, and murder, genocide, all this shit. But you think YaHaWaH is not going to repay them back through YaHaWaH? Hell the fuck yes, he's going to do that. All right? We still in biblical times. Exodus 14 and 1 NLT version. Then YaHaWaH gave these instructions to Moses. Order the Israelites to turn back and camp by Paharoth between Migdol and the sea. Camp there along the shore across from Baal Sipan. Then Pharaoh will think the Israelites are confused. They are trapped in the wilderness. And once again, I will harden Pharaoh's heart and he will chase after you. See how the Most High is controlling him? Going back to what precept? Proverbs 21 and 1. Pause the video and read it. The Lord is controlling the mind of Pharaoh. He's setting him up. Since he don't want to fucking listen, you're going to drown to death because of your pride. Because you're already seeing how your bullshit Egyptian gods don't exist, all right? All this shit that they've been believing in on for years, all right? For years, since they've been established as a civilization, and them gods did not do shit. Why? Because they don't fucking exist. They're not living entities. You got people that believe in different religions, right? But them gods don't exist. Exodus 14 and 4 NLT version. It says, and once again, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. He will chase after you. I have planned this in order to display my glory through Pharaoh and his whole army. After this, the Egyptians will know that he is the Lord, or he is YaHaWaH, or I am the Lord. So the Israelites camped there as they were told. Now it's getting into what? The Egyptians is pursuing Israel. It says, Exodus 14 and 5 NLT version. When word reached the king of Egypt that the Israelites had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds. What have we done, letting all those Israelite slaves get away, they asked. So Pharaoh harnessed his chariot and called up his troops. He took with him 600 of Egypt's best chariots, along with the rest of the chariots of Egypt, each with its commander. YaHaWaH hardened the heart of Pharaoh, meaning the mind of Pharaoh, right? The king of Egypt, so he chased after the people of Israel. The famous account everybody should know, right? Who had left with fists raised in defiance. The Egyptians chased after them with all the forces in Pharaoh's army, all his horses and chariots, his charioteers and his troops. The Egyptians caught up with the people of Israel as they were camped beside the shore near Paharoth, across from Baal-Zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up in panic. When they saw the Egyptians overtaking them, they cried out to YaHaWaH. See, back during this time, well, it would be later on down the line when you read like 1 Kings 8, when it says, when we face the east and cry out to YaHaWaH, he would forgive us and deliver us from the hand of our enemies. So check this out. It says, and they said to Moses, why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Lack of faith. Israel is always just lacking faith, man. All these miraculous signs that YaHaWaH is doing through Moses, how he freeing his people, and look at the fucked up mindset that Israelites be having, as if the God of Israel forsaken them. It's ridiculous. That's why I'm glad that only the elect of the nation of Israel is going to be delivered. Because a lot of our people, they just ungrateful and just retarded. They stupid. It says, weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? Like, look at this shit. Continuing on, Salakia. Just lack of faith, doubting. What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you this would happen while we were still in Egypt, we said? Leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness. And our people still got this slave mindset. It's frustrating to see here. It's annoying to know. It says, but Moses told the people, don't be afraid. You're supposed to trust in the true and living God. The Egyptians trust in their fake idols. Where are their gods at? Nowhere. Their gods couldn't stop these plagues from happening. Continuing on. It says, but Moses told the people, don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch YaHaWaH rescue you today. That's all you got to do. Just listen to what he commands. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. YaHaWaH himself will fight for you. Just stay calm. Now it's dealing with what? Escape through the Red Sea. It says, then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving. Like I told you what to do already, I got to repeat it. Verse 16, pick up your staff and raise your hand over the sea, divide the water so the Israelites can walk through the middle of the sea on dry ground. And this is the northern part of the Red Sea, which is the Gulf of Suez. It says, and I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will charge in after you. My great glory will be displayed through Pharaoh and his troops, his chariots, and his charioteers, right? Because he took 600 of his best everything with him. When my glory is displayed through them, all Egypt will see my glory and know that I am the Lord, or he is YaHaWaH, the true and living God. They will praise the God of the Israelites. All right? Continuing on. It says, then the angel of YaHaWaH, now this angel of YaHaWaH is actually YaHaWaH. Before the scriptures refer to him as YaHaWaH during the Roman Empire. All right, continuing on. Who had been leading the people of Israel move, because Apostle Paul, he breaks it down. I think I did a video on it. I forget. But when you read either 1st or 2nd Corinthians, the 10th chapter, the first 5 verses, it literally tell you that this particular angel in Exodus 14:19 is actually YaHaWaH. All right. But anyways, move to the rear of the camp. The pillar of cloud, this pillar of cloud, it was a moving vehicle. It was a so-called UFO. All right. Chariot of Israel. The pillar of cloud also moved from the front and stood behind them, guarding them. Right. The cloud settled between the Egyptians and the Israelite camps. As darkness fell, the cloud turned to fire, lighting up the night. But the Egyptians and Israelites did not approach each other all night. Then Moses raised his hand over the sea, and YaHaWaH opened up a path through the water with a strong east wind. The wind blew all that night, turning the seabed into dry land. Seabed meaning the ground of the water, right? So the people of Israel walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground, with walls of water on each side. All right, parting the Red Sea, the famous account, right? It says, just before dawn, YaHaWaH looked down on the Egyptian army from the pillar of fire and cloud, and he threw their forces in total confusion. He twisted their chariot wheels, making their chariots difficult to drive. Let's get out of here, away from these Israelites, the Egyptians shouted. And that, keep in mind, that was their best men, right? 600 of their best men. Couldn't do shit. The gods couldn't protect them, they couldn't do nothing. It says, YaHaWaH is fighting for them against Egypt. When all the Israelites had reached the other side, YaHaWaH said to Moses, raise your hand over the sea again. Then the waters will rush back and cover the Egyptians and their chariots and charioteers. So as the sun began to rise, Moses raised his hand over the sea, and the water rushed back into its usual place. The Egyptians tried to escape, but YaHaWaH swept them into the sea. It says, then the waters returned and covered all the chariots and charioteers. And they found physical proof of this if you go on YouTube. All right. The entire army of Pharaoh, of all the Egyptians who had chased the Israelites into the sea, not a single one survived. That's what you get. You want to harden your heart? You don't want to listen? You already see your gods don't exist? All right. Keep on chasing them. Now you're dead. Now you drowned to death. But the people of Israel had walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground as the water stood up like a wall on both sides. That is how YaHaWaH rescued Israel from the hand of the Egyptians that day. And the Israelites saw the bodies of the Egyptians washed up on the seashore. When the people of Israel saw the mighty power that YaHaWaH had unleashed against the Egyptians, they were filled with awe before him. They put their faith in YaHaWaH and in his servant Moses. So they had to see these things to believe, which reminds me of Doubting Thomas, which I did a video on that. All right. So that's it for that account. I could close this out now. What's the next one? So we did the part in the Red Sea. Oh yeah, the water from the rock. I guess I could get that. Water from the rock in the desert. Moses supernaturally, no, YaHaWaH threw Moses in the desert, but I'm going to just read it verbatim. Moses supernaturally provided water for the grumbling Israelites by striking a rock with a staff, which he wasn't supposed to do that. We're going to read the account. All right? Let's get Exodus 17, NLT. Okay, water from the rock. Exodus 17:1. It says, at YaHaWaH's command, the whole community of Israel left the wilderness of Zin. So that's that wilderness name, wilderness of Zin. The reason how you know that they crossed the northern part of the Red Sea, which is the Gulf of Suez, you have to look at where they ended up, which is where? The wilderness of Zin. All right? And move from place to place. Eventually, they camped at Rephidim, but there was no water there for the people to drink. So once more, the people complained against Moses. Give us water to drink, they demanded. Quiet, Moses replied. Why are you complaining against me? Why are you testing YaHaWaH? Because he getting pissed off. They being fucking annoying. They frustrating him, right? You know how people get. Verse 3. They like pushy, aggressive people. It says, but tormented by thirst, they continued to argue with Moses. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Are you trying to kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst? That's crazy, man. After everything YaHaWaH did through Moses, all right, they still ungrateful. They still acting like a bunch of niggas, right? It says, then Moses cried out to YaHaWaH, what should I do with these people? They are ready to stone me. YaHaWaH said to Moses, walk out in front of the people, take your staff. the one you used when you struck the water of the Nile, and call some of the elders of Israel to join you. I will stand before you on the rock at Mount Sinai, strike the rock, and water will come out, gushing out. You're supposed to strike the rock, right? Then the people will be able to drink. So Moses struck the rock as he was told, and water gushed out as the elders looked on. It says, Moses named the place Masai, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing, because the people of Israel argued with Moses and tested YaHaWaH. They tested the Lord by saying, is YaHaWaH here with us or not? All right. Let me read that in the KJV as well. See if I missed something. I felt like I missed something. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much did it. But it was a Pacific thing now. I don't know if I read it already. My mind is kind of foggy now. All right. But the Most High, he gave Moses a particular instruction on how to, like, talk to the rock or whatever. And in his anger, because the Israelites were stressing him out, he didn't listen to the Lord's command. And ultimately, that's what led to him not making it to the promised land, because he didn't listen. All right? He's still a man of the Lord, though. I did a lesson on that. So now, let's see. So it says the biblical narrative emphasizes that Moses was simply the vessel, as his staff is often referred to in the text as the staff of YaHaWaH. All right? So, I mean, you know, that's pretty much it. Lord willing, you was edified by the lesson. Shalom.